This has to be the most decadent way to serve ground beef. Today we're making these chicken fried hamburger steaks. This classic southern fried comfort food is not only super delicious, but it's incredibly easy to make. And because we're using ground beef instead of steak, it's also easy on the budget. So let's go ahead and get started here with about 8 ounces of ground beef, although you can make these whatever size you would like. Now you might ask, why use ground beef? Well, have you ever tried to catch a flying cow? It's exhausting. Seriously though, this recipe is also really good made with ground chicken, turkey, lamb, whatever you would like to make it with. It's worth taking a little extra time to really form your patty properly. We don't want this falling apart because we're going to have to bread it and fry it and flip it and all kinds of stuff. So make sure there are no gaps here. Get it formed really well. If it starts coming apart on you in the pan, you're going to wish that you had. Next, we're going to thoroughly salt and pepper this. Now, don't skimp or it'll come out tasting kind of bland. Under seasoning is one of the easiest mistakes to make. I see a lot of people who think they messed up the whole recipe because it doesn't taste good when all they needed was another quarter teaspoon of salt. And yes, don't forget to season both sides. No one wants that one side tasting food, as Emerald used to say. And now that we have salted our beef, it's time for the battery. First, we want to gently cover our hamburger steak in flour. And yes, of course, we do want to season that flour as well. That's going to help us twice, once on the steak and once again when we're making the gravy. Next, we're going to cover that in some beaten egg, and unlike what I'm doing here, it's a good idea to switch hands. That way you wind up with one dry hand and one wet hand. Let some of the excess egg just drain off of there, and then we're going straight back into our seasoned flour. This will be our last step before cooking, so we want to get this thoroughly covered. If you see any spots of yellow egg showing through, get more flour on there. Get that covered up all the way. Try and be a little gentle with it though. Remember, this is a hamburger steak, not a regular steak. Once we're happy with that, just try and dust off some of the excess flour, and then it's straight into our cast iron skillet with enough oil to cover them around halfway up. And as those are sizzling away happily for us, I'm going to go ahead and turn my oven on and down to the lowest temperature, which for me is 170 Fahrenheit, into which we're going to put a sheet pan covered with a cooling rack to keep our hamburger steaks warm as we're making the gravy. And here's a little trick I learned to make them cook slightly faster and set that crust on top. Spoon or splash a little of the fry oil over the top as they're cooking. Be careful with this. Please don't splash yourself with oil. That's no fun. After 3 or 4 minutes, these will be ready for a flip. I recommend the old 2 spatula technique, which I'm executing very awkwardly here. Cook for another 3 or 4 minutes, and then we're ready for another flip. And we can flip these as many times as we want. People like their hamburger steaks at different donenesses. I like mine at medium well, my wife likes hers well done, and some people like it rare, and that is all fine. And to check, you check the same way you would with a hamburger or a steak. You poke it with your finger, and the firmer it is, the more cooked it is. Once we're ready to pull those out, just let it drain over the pan for a second, and then go onto your cooling rack in the oven. Whoops, okay, yep, all according to plan, folks. Now that our chicken fried hamburger steaks are resting comfortably, let's go ahead and make some milk gravy to go with them. We want to drain all but a quarter cup of that oil, and to that we're going to add a quarter cup of our seasoned flour from earlier. Just sprinkle that in a little bit at a time until it seems right. This flavorful roux will be the base for our milk gravy. I like to whisk in about half of my flour first just to see how much oil I have in the pan, and then we'll add a little more flour as necessary. We don't want it to be a paste, we don't want it to be a liquid, somewhere in the middle there. We're looking for roughly equal parts flour to oil. This seems just about right, so we'll just let that continue cooking for 2 or 3 minutes over low. We don't have to go too far with this, we just want it to get 1 or 2 shades deeper brown, and it should have this wonderful kind of nutty aroma to it. And now we're going to go in with about 2 cups of milk. This is really what makes the gravy so utterly delicious. We want to start whisking right away, get that roux incorporated with our milk and let it come up to a simmer. If it's too thick, just add another dash of milk. And even though we use that seasoned flour, we still want to taste for seasoning. We'll probably have to adjust here with a little extra salt and pepper. Mine needed just another pinch of salt and a good cracking of pepper. Milk gravy and pepper is kind of like peanut butter and jelly. It's one of those combinations that just goes really well together. Give that one final whisk to get our seasonings distributed, and our milk gravy is ready to serve over top of our beautiful chicken fried hamburger steaks. I really love these. I think it's a great example of taking simple ingredients and turning them into something really special. I hope you found this video helpful and that it can help inspire you to give this dish a try. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up below, subscribe, and hit that little bell so you don't miss our future recipes. And check out one of our other videos on the screen now. This has been Graham with a passion for food. Cut.